Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to run through the process of installing the software that you're going to need for the React Native workshop. So we're going to first start off by installing the Node Package Manager, which is the package manager for the Node.js runtime environment, which we will need for Xposed CLI and also for the React Native CLI. Then we will install Java 8, which is required for Android Studio, for developing in Android Studio. We will install Python 2, which is required for us to start up AVDs in Android Studio. Then we'll install Android Studio itself. Now this installation is going to probably need between 6 to 20 gigabytes of hard disk space. And it's probably going to take up quite a while to install depending on your network bandwidth. So you probably want to do this on a machine which has enough space and during a period of time when you can get access to a reasonable amount of network bandwidth. And then we're going to install Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE we're going to be using for the workshop. But you can obviously use any other IDEs for React Native, such as Atom, Sublime, Deco IDE, WebStorm, and so on. And lastly, we're going to install Notepad++, which is an enhanced version of Notepad for Windows, which we'll use to copy and paste our code when we are working with our labs. Now, this video is primarily aimed for guiding you through installing the required software on a Windows platform. But if you look at the actual React Native website, the official website at Facebook, they also give you guidelines on how to do this for a Mac OS. So if you have a Mac OS, you can probably just follow the instructions there. Okay guys, so let's get started with the installation process. So I'm going to start off by installing Node. And by the way, this installation guide is based on the instructions given on the official React Native docs hosted at Facebook. So I'm pretty much following the instructions for installing Xposed CLI and also for React Native CLI. So let's first start off by installing Node, which is the package manager that we need in order to install Expo. So I'm going to install the latest long-term stable version 12.14.1. If you have version 12 and above, that should be adequate. But if you want, you can upgrade to the latest version. It's not a problem. So we're going to install a 64-bit MSI for my case. Of course, if you have a Mac OS, then install the appropriate one for Mac OS. So now that I've installed that, I'm going to click this to run it. It's going to install it. Accept the terms and license in agreement. Click next. We want to make sure that this is going to be added to our path so that we can see it when we type npm or node at the command prompt. Okay, we are going to skip this for the time being, but we're going to install Python 2 after this. I'm going to click installation, and this process will take some time to complete. Okay, so we are done with this. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to install Python. So the actual installation process for the package for Xposed CLI will probably need Python. So we're going to install Python first. So Python 2, we can download this from this link here. And we can just kind of download. So for us, we want the Windows x86 MS4 64 for 64-bit operating system MSI installer. I'm going to click that. And so that downloads that. And then I'm going to start that up. And I'm going to install for all users. It's going to go into Python 2.7. Okay, C Python 2.7, yes. And I'm going to click next. And it's going to install it. Okay, we are done. I'm going to click finish here. So just to confirm that I've got Python installed, I'm going to start a command prompt. So this is not a PowerShell, but just a standard command prompt. And I'm going to type Python just to see whether I can get there. Yes, so I am able to access Python. I'm also going to type npm minus minus version to see that I've got Node Package Manager installed. It is. And then I'm going to type node minus minus version to check the version of Node. And so we've got everything there installed. So the next thing we want to just make sure that everything is okay is we're going to add Python 27 to the system path variable. So this is how we're going to do it. First, we're going to copy this path. Sorry. Okay. Let's select this, and then we're just going to copy this. And then here, I'm going to look for my control panel. So I'm going to start my control panel, and I'm going to go to System and Security. I'm going to go to System, and then I'm going to go to Advanced System Settings. I'm going to go to Environment Variables, and then in my path here, what I want to do is to add, okay, so I've checked Python 27 is added, so that's great. I'm going to click. We just need to add one more environment variable, which is just the word Python. So let's click, cancel here. I'm just going to add new, and I'm just going to add Python, and variable value, I'm just going to add that as Python 27. Okay. Then click OK. Click OK, and then we're done here. I'm just going to leave this that window open because we're going to need it later. Okay, so now that Python has been installed, we can go back and install Xposed, the Xposed CLI. Okay, so there are several versions of Xposed. So one is called the Xposed client, which is what we will install on your mobile device, either an Android or iOS phone. And then there's the other Xposed CLI, which is like the name implies, a command line environment for the machine that you're going to do your React Native development on. So this is basically going to install as a node package. So we're going to copy and paste the command to install this. npm install -g stop means install it globally, so it's accessible anywhere in your hard drive. So we're going to do that. And this process is going to take a while, so make sure you have got a good network connection before you start it. Okay, so we're done now. We have installed Xposed CLI. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to install Java 8, which we need for for Android Studio in order to build Android apps. So I'm going to click on this to go here. And so we have Java SE Development Kit 8 downloads. Now just keep in mind that there's been a license update for Oracle. So if your company is not aware of this, then just make sure they are aware, because there's been some changes to their license agreement. Previously, before this, it was open source for whatever usage, but commercial license and support now requires a Java SE subscription. So just something to keep in mind. But again, if you are not going to use Android Studio specifically to write native modules in Java, then you won't need to actually install Oracle Java. But because for this workshop, I'm actually going to show you how to write native modules in Java. So we're going to just install Java just in case. Okay. So click Accept License Agreement, and then install Windows for Windows 64. Now you're probably going to have to sign in. So I already have got a account. So if you haven't got an account, okay, please get an account. Sorry, register an account for yourself and then sign in. And once you have done this, it should start the download process. Okay, so that will take a while. Okay, we're done now. So let's go to the downloads folder and double click the MSI file to start the installation, sorry, executable file to start the installation process. Okay, so note the installation directory. This is standard. It's always program files Java and then followed by the folder indicating the specific version of Java. Right, okay, so it's been successfully installed. I'm going to click close here. And what I want to do is to basically add the Java home environment system variable and also add that to the system path variable. So first thing, I'm just going to double check and see that the location of it. So give me a sec here. I'm going to just click here. Just going to go and go to C drive. It's going to be program files, and it's going to be Java, and it's okay. So this is the path that we want to set. So we're going to take this thing here. We're going to copy this, and we're going to set this under the Java home environment system variable. So let's go to back here and do that again. So environment variables, and then we are going to add a well, let's maybe put it as a system variable instead. Yes, so we're going to say new, and then for the variable value we're going to put paste, and then what we want is Java home as the name of the environment variables. We're going to just copy that here, and we're just going to put this as Java home. Click OK, and then in addition to that, we are going to add Java home to the system path variable. So we're just going to copy this as well, and then we're going to go back here, and then we're going to select the path. Where is path? Okay, I'm going to click path, and we are then going to say new, and in the new we are just going to simply paste what we did just now. Is Java home bin. Okay, we can remove the semicolon because it will be automatically inserted for us. Yes, that looks about right. Click OK, click OK here, click OK here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to close our prompt here, and we're going to open a new prompt again just to check whether the settings have taken effect, and I'm going to type cmd here. We're going to open another command prompt, and we're just going to minimize this window. I'm just going to resize it. Okay, and I'm just going to type java -- version. Oops, Java - version. Yep, so it's there, and of course my Python is also there as well, and so is my node.pm. So okay, so it looks like everything is installed properly. So the next thing we want to do is, we've already installed Python, so the next thing we're going to do is to install Android Studio. So again, warning, this requires about 6 to 20 gigabytes of hard disk space. Later on during the labs, if you are going to start using multiple AVD emulators, that's probably going to take up more hard disk space as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. So let's go to here and download and Android Studio. Okay, so I'm just going to click this to download Android Studio. I'm going to click I have agreed, and I'm going to wait for this to download. Okay, we're done. So let's go to the downloads folder. Go to downloads, and then we're just going to double click this to start the installation process for Android Studio. Okay, it looks like we are complete now. So that's done. We're going to start up Android Studio. I'm going to click OK. So this is going to start it up. Android Studio is up and running. Send usage statistics. Okay, fine. Okay, so it started up. We're going to click next. We're going to click standard. I'm going to use light, but you can use the dark setting if you want, and you can always obviously switch later on if you don't want. And then we're going to just click finish. And it's going to download, and this might take some time, again depending on the speed of your network connection. Okay, so at this point we should have completed the download process. We're going to click finish. Okay, so now we see the main startup menu for Android Studio, and what we want to do is to configure it so that we can run our AVD emulators. Okay, so before doing that, let's kind of set up all these environment system variables first. So we can close this first, and let's again set up this environment variable. So I'm going to just select this as Android home, and your location would be somewhere around here, so it'll be dependent on your username or your account name for your Windows machine. So for my machine, it's going to be C users, and it's going to be Victor, and it's going to be app data, and I think, well, you can't see app data here yet because it's probably a hidden icon. So let me just see whether I can make it hidden items. Oops. Yeah, so we can see there's app data here, and then there's also local Android SDK. So this is what we want to add to the Android home environment system variable. So I'm just going to copy this, and obviously repeat this process for your machine depending on what your username is. And then we're going to just go to your again environment variables, and we're going to click a new environment variable. We're going to set the variable value as this, and the name would be Android home. So I'm just going to copy this Android home. We're going to set that as here. We click OK, and then additionally we are going to add this to the path system path variable. Click copy, and then we're going to go down to your path here, and then again we're going to click edit, and then we're going to click a new, and we are going to paste this. Oops, sorry, new, and we are going to paste this. Platform tools, okay, great, that looks good. Click OK, click OK, click OK. Right, so again, to see the effects take place, we need to close the existing command prompt, open a new prompt again, cmd, and then okay. Now to check whether it's actually added to the path, now obviously we can also do an echo path like this. And yes, we can see it's been added. I think yes, there we can see it's there, and you type ADB, which is the tool that we're going to use. And yes, so if you can get some response by typing ADB here, by typing, oh, that's a lot of stuff, by typing ADB, the Android debug bridge, and you can get all these messages, it means you've set the path correctly. Okay, so now that we have set the path correctly, we are going to configure the SDK Manager in Android Studio. So we're going to start up Android Studio again. So Android Studio. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to say, okay, SDK Manager. So now what we want to do is to install the various tools and builds necessary for us to create an AVD emulator, as well as to create Android applications. So we're going to select the package details at this point here. We're going to show package details. And so we can see that there are different versions of Android here, down from the latest version, Android 10, down to 9, 8, 7, and so on. So the bare minimum we're going to need for the workshop is Android 10, but you can also install earlier versions of Android if you want. But obviously, the more things you select, obviously, the more space it's going to take up on your hard disk. So keep that in mind. So for us, the bare minimum is Android 10. Okay, we're going to take the SDK and the sources, so make sure we have ticked the SDK and sources. So this is already installed, we've got a tick there. In addition, we want the Intel x86 Atom64 system image, and we want Google API's Intel x86 Atom64 system image, and also the Google Play Intel x86 Atom64 system image. That's what is being listed here as well. So once you have done that, okay, you click apply, and it's going to start the download for all of these things, and we can click accept. Where is this? Accept. To go all the way down, I think. Decline. Accept. Yeah, accept. And then we've got this as well. We've got accept. Right. Okay, accept the licenses for all. Click next. And this is going to take a while as well. Like I said, depending on how many packages you selected. Okay, so give it some time. Okay, we are done. So just click finish here. So we've installed all of this. The next thing we want to do is to make sure we've got the appropriate SDK tools installed. So what we need mainly is on the SDK tools tab, we need the Android SDK build tools, the emulator, the platform tools. So the build tools, the emulator, the platform tools. So build tools, the emulator, the platform tools, which is already all installed. Then we need the SDK tools and the Google Play services. So SDK tools is also installed, and Google Play services, which we need to install. Anything else? Let's see. And then the Intel x86. No. Okay, so the HAXM installer should have already been installed. If you are using a machine with an AMD chipset, then you need to install that. Okay. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We should have 6 items here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. Okay. So the only thing left is to install the Google Play services. So let's do that now by clicking on apply and then clicking OK. And that's going to start the installation process. Okay, and that's done. So now that we are done, looks like everything is there in place. Update sites is there, platforms, we have installed everything we need to install, tools is there. Right, so we're done. We click OK. Now let's go back here. And now we're going to create a virtual device. Okay, so the important thing is we want to select a virtual device which has Play Store enabled so that we can download the Xposed CLI client onto it, which we will need if we are going to run an Expo app on the emulator. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's go back here, configure, and we're going to select AVD Manager. And right now it should be blank. So we're going to click create virtual device now. Right, so you have see a list of a variety of devices, and you can, like I said, pick any one you want, but make sure that it's a model that's got the Play Store that comes with it. So just, you know, pick any model you want, and you obviously can pick more than one model, so you can create multiple AVD emulators. But like I said, that's going to take up more space on your hard disk, so just make sure that you have enough space if you want to do that. So here I'm just going to say Pixel 3a. It doesn't really matter what you want. Of course, if you want to check, you know, if you're working on some app and you want to make sure the resolution is kind of near to the actual mobile device you're targeting for, then choose the one with the closest resolution. Okay, so I'm just going to pick Pixel 3a here, and then I'm going to click next. And then here you can see the various images that you have. So here I do not have a system image yet for the Q model, so I'm just going to click download this to download it, and it's going to take some time, so let it download first. Okay, so that's done. And then we're going to click next, and then we're going to click finish. And that's done. So now if we click on start here, we should be able to start up the AVD. Hopefully this will be okay. Let's just give it a second. Okay, great. So it's starting up. Okay, so now that we are done with testing our AVD, let's see what we're going to do next. Okay, we're going to install Visual Studio Code, which is the IDE that we are going to be using for this lab. But again, of course, you can use any other IDE that you want. So there are many other IDEs that are reasonably good for working with JavaScript and React Native projects. So I'm going to download the one for Windows, and it should hopefully get it running. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to go to my downloads folder. You can start up Visual Studio Code. Accept the agreement. create a desktop icon. Click next, install. Okay, so once that's done, we should be able to see the main starting page of Visual Studio Code. Okay, so this is opening up in a previous project that I already had because I installed that earlier. So it doesn't matter. Okay, you should see a blank page. And so that's Visual Studio Code, and we are going to be using Visual Studio Code for IDE in this workshop. But like I said, you can use any other IDE that you're comfortable with. Okay, so now that we're done with that, the last part is to download Notepad++, which is basically a very enhanced version, a simpler and a more enhanced version of Notepad that you have on Windows. We're going to download the latest version, and we're going to download a 64-bit version. For at least for my machine, it's going to be a 64-bit. So we're going to download a 64-bit. And once we have done that, we can basically go to my downloads folder again, and it should be npp Notepad++. Click yes, next, I agree, next. Pretty much install everything, put a shortcut. Great, and once we are done with that, we should be able to see Notepad++. Okay, so we're going to use this just to copy and paste files during the process of building our React Native projects. Okay, and that's it. So we have installed all the required software, and the next step we are going to work with is to test this by actually creating a Expo Manage workflow project as well as a React Native CLI project. Hey guys, so the next step we are going to work with is to test the software that we just installed. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to install the Expo client from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store onto your mobile device. So here I've got a kind of a screencast from my mobile phone, which is a Samsung S8. So I'm going to go to Play Store now. And in Play Store, I'm going to search for Expo, E-X-P-O. And if I click here, so this is how the Expo should look like. That's the icon for it. So I'm going to click install to install that on my phone. Not click, but in this case, touch or press. And we'll wait for that to install. Okay, now that the installation is complete, I can click on it to open. And you should see it will open with a screen that looks like this, and it's going to ask you to scan for a QR code. So to get a QR code, we are going to actually have to start or initialize a React Native project using the Expo Manage workflow process. So let's do that now. So you're going to find an empty directory where you intend to keep all your Expo as well as your React Native projects for this workshop. And then in that empty directory, you're going to type this command, expo init. So let's go back to our command prompt. So I'm going to kick up a command prompt here. And let's say the empty project folder is code lab projects. And I'm going to just paste this here. I'm going to press enter. And that will start up the Xposed CLI, which will then create the basic project folder structure. So it's going to ask me a question here about what I want to start off. And I'm going to just say a minimal app as clean as empty. So just press enter. And then it will go off and start downloading a whole bunch of dependencies which you require for this project. So this is going to take some time, and obviously the speed of this will depend on the broadband connection that you have at the moment, as well as the speed of your processor. Okay, so we're done. So now to start up the Xposed development server in a browser tab, okay, we're going to select npm start, okay, and that should start off the development server in a browser tab. Oops, sorry, I need to switch to the project folder. In this case, it was Expo Basics 1, and then what was it again? Oops, let me just go back. Expo Basic 1. Okay, sorry. CD Expo Basic 1. I got to switch there, and then from in here, I type npm start. And that should start off the development server. And that should open up in a tab in Chrome or in your default browser. Okay, so it's going to load it up, and we can see the loading process is starting. So when the loading process is completed, you should see a QR code like this. So the idea is that you need to have your mobile device connected to the same Wi-Fi network as the machine that you are running this Expo development server on. Okay. Ideally, you want to use a LAN mode for connection, but sometimes that may not work. So let's use the tunnel mode. So the tunnel mode is when your phone is connected using Wi-Fi to the network, and when your development machine is connected using a cable. Okay, so that helps in situations like that. Otherwise, if both of them are connected using Wi-Fi, then you can use the LAN mode. Okay, so now that's done. I'm just going to kind of minimize this browser window a bit here. And I'm just going to kind of drag it up. So now I can see this. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to scan this QR code from my mobile device. So this is my mobile device here. So I'm going to say scan QR code. Let me just click that again. Allow. Right. So you can see I've scanned the QR code. And if you give it a couple of minutes, it should open up. It should show a JavaScript bundle loading, and you should also be able to see that in the browser tab. Okay, so the progress of loading the JavaScript bundle into the Expo client app on your mobile device is mirrored in the browser tab that you see in Chrome. Okay, so that's done. So once that's done, you should be able to see, hopefully, the app coming up. Yay! So now we can see the display from that app, and that's just a single text. So we can now open up the folder containing this project using Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to kick up Visual Studio Code. I'm going to say open folder, and the folder I want is lab projects, and it's Expo Basic 1. I'm going to click select folder, and this is basically on the left side here in the Explorer pane. You can see all the files and folders in the main root project folder. And what we want to do is to open up app.js. And you can see here, this is the actual text that's showing up on your mobile device. And we can actually change this, okay? And we'll be able to see the change happening immediately as soon as we have saved our changes. So this is basically the hot reload feature of React Native that's supported in the Expo client. So let's say I'm just going to change this entire line of text here. I'm going to say hello world there, and I'm just going to save it. And so as soon as I've saved it, if you go back again to here, you can see now the changes have been updated. Okay, so that's basically viewing the app directly in your mobile device, in a real mobile device, using the Expo client that you have installed on your mobile device. The other alternative for working with the app during the development stage is to use an emulator. So that is probably going to be a better solution, because often when you're working with the Expo client on your mobile device, it can hang for a variety of reasons. So here I'm going to now open up Android Studio, and I'm going to start up the AVD emulator that I created in the previous step. So here we make sure it has got a pixel store, and I'm going to click start this. So I'm going to start the AVD now, and so hopefully the AVD will start. We'll just wait for this process to complete. Okay, so now the AVD has started. Not sure why getting this thing here, but okay. And right now you see that there is no Xposed client installed here yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click run on Android device or emulator, and you can do the same thing as well for the iOS simulator if you are doing this lab on iOS simulator. So I'm going to click run on Android device emulator. It's going to say attempting to open a simulator, and then it's going to say something like hopefully that it's able to open a simulator ready. So now if you look at your Android emulator, what's happening now is it's downloading Xposed CLI, and there you go. You can see hello world there. And again, we can modify this in Visual Studio Code. So let's change this to something else. Let's change this sentence in the text field to something else. I love React Native. Okay, so let's go back, and you can see as soon as I've saved, the changes again are shown immediately in the app. So this is the hot reload feature of React Native that I talked about earlier. Right, okay, so that's basically for working with an app using the Xposed Manage workflow. Now, the other alternative for working with an app is to use what is called a pure React Native CLI project. So let's do that now. So for this, we will not be using Xposed, we'll be using the React Native CLI, and we are going to initialize a project folder in the same way in our empty project. So to do that, we can just end the server that's currently running. So just press Ctrl+C to end the server. And you'll notice once you've ended the server, if you go back to your browser window, you will see something like this, which just tells you that the developer tools is disconnected from the CLI because you have stopped running the CLI. Okay. And also when that happens, you're able to see as well in your AVD that basically there's no connection to the Metro server. So you know that the CLI server has stopped running. Okay, so in order to, get things back to usual, you go back to the prompt and type npm start. But we're not going to do that here now. We are going to create another project folder, but this time using React Native CLI. So let's do that right now. And so I'm going to type this here. And again, this process is going to take quite some time. So you obviously want to do this while you are connected to a good network with a fast broadband speed. Okay, we are done now. So to run this, okay, we need to make sure we either have an emulator or an actual mobile phone connected to your development machine. So if you want to use a mobile phone, you want to run this React Native Pure project on your mobile phone, you need to stop your Xposed client, and then you need to connect your phone to the development machine in a USB debugging mode. So you got to get a USB cable and then connect your phone to a USB port on your development machine and switch the USB debugging mode on your phone on. To do that, you can check YouTube videos. There are a whole bunch of videos that will teach you how to do this. Okay, I'm just going to run this directly on the AVD emulator that I've already got running. So I'm going to just switch. Let me see, I'm just going to switch to the project folder. And to run this, I am going to type React Native run Android. Copy. And I'm going to go to here. And I'm going to paste. Okay. So of course, make sure that you have your AVD running. So it doesn't matter whether it's now in the Xposed client app. Doesn't matter. Just make sure you have it up and running. And then we click React Native run Android. And that should start up a JS server, which will now basically install the JavaScript bundles and dependencies onto your AVD emulator. Okay, this is going to take some time. You notice it's using a Gradle daemon, and Gradle is basically the particular framework that Android uses to do a building of an Android project. So if you're working with Android Studio, you're probably going to use Gradle as well. Okay, so we have successfully completed the installation and the execution of the pure React Native project on the emulator, and you should see a welcome screen like this. So you can see it's slightly different from Expo. And of course, you have hot reloading enabled here as well. So we can again open Visual Studio Code, go to the root project folder, in this case RN Basic 1. And again, if you change any of the related text, so again, the main display file is app.js, but of course here it's much bigger, but you can obviously just go here anywhere and just change. So for example, let's see, step 1, text to change this screen and come back. So here we could maybe just in anywhere where we have the text, so see your changes. So we could maybe change this to say hello world from Visual Studio Code, and whatever changes you make, again, the moment you save it, you should be able to see that being reloaded again here, so you can see the changes have been made here. Okay, so that's it. And you saw that the process of getting the project folders generated is actually pretty long, so I would really recommend that all of you guys create these project folders here. So there's a whole bunch of project folders here that I would like you to create on your empty project directory, so that when we start the workshop, you're going to have all these project folders ready, and you can just start working on putting code into them in the app.js file, rather than sitting around and waiting for half an hour for the project to be initialized. Okay guys, so make sure you complete installation of all those software, and also make sure you create all the necessary project folders using Expo init and also the React Native CLI before the workshop. As you are already seen, creating these folders will take some time. If you don't have any previous working experience with JavaScript, then the workshop is not a great place to start learning how to use JavaScript. So please do a basic tutorial beforehand. And also in the workshop installation guide, you will see at the bottom of the PDF file, there are a whole bunch of JavaScript topics that are relevant, as well as CSS. We're actually going to be using CSS to do styling of Flexbox within React Native. So if you have no basics of CSS, that would also be good to study as well. So make sure you focus, not say focus, but at least go through these key topics. I've given you a couple of links to various sites which explain them. But I'm also going to explain them as well during the workshop. So please make sure you do that if you don't have any previous experience with JavaScript. Okay, I'll see you guys in the workshop then.